By 2005, gamers were no strangers to first-person shooters on consoles. 4 years prior, Halo changed the perception of what a shooter on consoles should play like. But going back to these older games can feel kinda ancient. Not because these are bad games, but because by that time, people just couldn't agree on the default controller layout for this genre. And that is very much the case for F.E.A.R. This game got the graphics. Sure, nowadays everything here looks like plastic, but the lighting though, it was very impressive for the time. Not only for the graphics, but also for the enemy AI. When Halo was released and we saw that the tiny enemies were like, oh my god, a grenade! And the big enemies were like, huh, a grenade? That's nothing. We were like, oh my god, they can think! And that is very much the case here. Enemies will coordinate between them to sneak up on you. They will run from grenades, take cover, defend certain areas, and yada yada yada. You already know all of this stuff. What you may not know, however, is that this combat-driven, first-person shooter, clearly designed to be played with a keyboard and mouse, was and has always been playable with a controller. How? This is how. Okay, come closer, you can see what's wrong with it from all the way over there. First, lean is on the D-pad, so you can't move and lean at the same time. Jumping and melee are also too close together, so it's really hard to perform the jumping melee actions. Medkits require you to stop moving, and none of the other controller layouts fix these issues, so this game expects you to do multiple actions at once while moving and aiming, and unless you claw grip on both sides of the controller, that ain't happening. Actually, playing this game with back pedals is almost a must because there's just too many buttons to press. But the controls aren't weird just on the console version. On PC, Shift is the default button to toggle your aim, and this toggle button is hard-coded into the game, so there's no way to change that to a hold. I don't know why, but I find that oddly fascinating. This is the equivalent of playing an old game and using R3 on a controller to toggle your aim, but on a keyboard. Anyway, what if I want to play F.E.A.R on my brand new Steam machine, or on my Steam Deck, or on my PC using my new 4K HDR 144Hz 65-inch gamer TV, or I don't know. What if you're just like me and you don't like playing games on keyboard and mouse, even though you are playing them on PC? If that's you, maybe we can be best friends, I don't know, I would be down for that. Anyway, the PC version doesn't have controller support. Hooray! Actually, the PC version is missing a lot of things on modern machines. This game simply wasn't designed with all the powerful tech that we have today, so the HUD is very small. Some effects are missing, there are bugs tied to the fact that we can run this game at 1 billion frames per second nowadays. It's a mess. And that's where Echo Patch comes in. Echo Patch is a brilliant mod that fixes all of these problems, making the game a lot more enjoyable on modern PCs. And would you look at that, they added controller support, and it still sucks! Not to throw shade at this mod though, this isn't the original layout for the 360 version, and overall I do think it's a huge improvement, but that doesn't fix the biggest problem with this game. That is, for a lot of these actions, you had to stop moving or let go of your aim to perform them. But with one simple trick, I can fix that. Well, mostly. Actually, I will let you be the judge of that. In one of these clips, I'm using the controller layout from Echo Patch, and in the other clip, I'm using my improved layout. Which one do you think is which? I'm not claw gripping, I'm not using any peripherals or back pedals. Did you guess it right? You may have noticed that on my layout I can lean, move and aim all at the same time. But how? If I'm not pressing any extra buttons? Well, that's the secret of my layout. Mice are precise because they follow your physical movements. So inspired by games like Splatoon, gyro aiming allows me to achieve absolute precision without aim assist, by simply moving the controller, which is pretty important in the PC version of this game, since this version doesn't have any kind of aim assist, bringing controllers fundamentally closer to the precision of a mouse, because gyro is just emulating a mouse. Here's how it actually works. Gyro is enabled at all times, but you will still rely on the right stick to look around. Then, once you get close to your target, use gyro to do the actual aiming, by slightly twisting your wrists. Pay attention that the right way to move is like this, and not like this. Not only you can be more precise, but you can still have final control over your aim while performing other actions. If that's not the coolest shit ever, I don't know what is. But let's say you're not impressed yet, and you don't think this is the coolest shit ever. I still have one more trick, and that is FlickStick. Hi, welcome to the channel FlickStick Videos, the channel where I think this feature is so cool and awesome that I dedicated an entire channel and more than 3 years of my life to share how freaking cool and awesome this feature is. So what is it? Let's say there's an enemy behind me and I want to flick backwards as fast as I can. Done. Yeah, FlickStick completely changes the behavior of the right stick, letting you flick your aim to the exact angle that you pointed with the right stick. It's fast and precise, and it feels good, and it's cool, and awesome, and cool. But what about the rest of the layout and the button placement? You can find a command list in the description, but the most interesting commands are the following. Holding R3 will let you pause gyro. That's important so you can reposition the controller after controlling your recoil, for example. Just hold R3 and move the controller back to your comfortable position. L1 is the modifier button. Holding it will let you use the right stick to lean left and right. I was going to put the aiming button on R3 because the game only allows me to toggle this action, but toggling aim on R3 and crouching in circle destroys the pace of this game, because you have to use one hand to toggle all of this stuff, plus aiming and shooting, so ADS is bound to L2 and melee is bound to R3. I've tried doing it differently, that's why on most of my footage I'm holding L2, but sometimes the game would just bug and ADS would still be active even when I let go of the button, so toggling it is. But what about the jumping and sliding attack? That's my favorite part about this layout. This game doesn't have a double jump, so pressing jump 2 times will do a kick, and holding the crouch button will slide. This collection of changes alone make this game feels like a modern game, and I love it so much. I've also added support for additional buttons like the trackpads on the Steam Deck and the Steam controller, and back pedals. So if your controller has trackpads, you can quick save and load without needing to open the pause menu. And most importantly, you can change weapons and grenades while moving using the back pedals. And all of this in action looks like this. And you wanna know the best part? You already have a controller that can do all of that. Because the only controllers in the market right now that do not have gyro sensors are the Xbox controllers. So if you already own a DualShock 4, a DualSense, Switch Pro controller, Steam Deck or whatever, you can use my layout. I packaged all of this on a Steam guide and I named this whole thing the BetterController Mod. Links with instructions on how to use it are in the description. Hi, it's me from the future. So, I took so long making this video and now Echo Patch added native gyro aiming and back button support, so there's no need to emulate a mouse anymore. But my approach can still go beyond of what Echo Patch can do, so everything that you just watched still applies, and it wasn't a complete waste of time. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, and watch this one next. Shout out to my Patreons, Christopher Fox, Thana Oath, Easy, Ars Poetic, and Oryx Gazella. Thank you so much for watching.